Hey, I'm Tim Baldermann, and welcome to this edition of Too Honest for Social Media, where we discuss local, county, state, federal issues that impact you every day. We want to give you the information so you can make informed decisions for yourself and have informed ideas when you've got your opinions. Joining me today is not only a wonderful employee of ours, but I consider her a dear friend, Nancy Dye. She is of course, our economic development coordinator. Nancy, thanks for joining me on the podcast today.
You're welcome.
All right, so tell me a little bit about, I know, tell our viewers and our listeners a little bit about yourself, your professional career.
Well, I started out at the Chicago Board of Trade and was there for 31 years, and my job ended, so I went to work for a membership association for public school foundations. Concurrently, I was on the District 122 school board until about December 2002, and then there was a vacancy that opened on the village board, and I was asked if I wanted to join, so I did. And I was a trustee until July of 2015 when the Economic Development Coordinator job opened, and I researched what it meant to be that position, and 50% of it's relationship building. And I thought, well, as a trustee and a member of the community for a long time, I could do that. So I talked to you about it, and then I went through the process just like everyone else. But because I've been here since '76, I think that worked in my favor because I knew the community.
Well, you're absolutely right. Not only have you been here a long time and you know a lot about our community, you have spent many, many years wearing different hats, getting to know people. And most importantly, you have always, and everyone knows me, I don't bullshit, I give it straight. I have never, ever heard anyone say anything about you other than you're a great person, you're an ethical person, you're an intelligent person, you really are all of those things, and you've represented yourselves that way as a community member, as a member of your church, with your service to the school board, with your service to the village board. So these past 10 years, it's really been our benefit to have you serving in this role. And as the mayor, what you do is critical to our success here in the community, and I couldn't be more pleased about the job that you do.
Well, thank you. I enjoy it.
Absolutely. So let's talk about your job. Let's talk a little bit about, I know things can be a little different, but day to day, what are you really doing down there in the Economic Development Office?
So I'm one of several groups within the Community Development Department that's run by Robin Ellis, and so economic development kind of feeds into planning, engineering, and building, but I'm typically the first point of contact for businesses. The other thing I like about my job is that residents will call me and ask me about businesses, and navigating calls through government can be a little daunting, so I like to be there to kind of help them. I don't profess to know all the answers, but I can find out for them. So on a daily basis, for example, today I had an email from a coffee shop that wants to open somewhere. I had someone call about a warehouse that they were interested in looking for. We also have Restaurant Week that is just finishing with our local businesses, so we were getting some feedback about that. So it's really being in my position to answer to people and then facilitate those types of responses for them, whether it's on sites or it's on what's going up north, why hasn't Kmart, what's going on with Kmart. I think people feel they can call me and get an answer relatively quickly.
Well, and you've said a couple things that are really true and very important. Number one, government is difficult to navigate, and I think what we do here is really kind of unique. Not only are we incredibly transparent, but we're incredibly accessible. The whole point of this podcast and the whole point of talking to community members, whether they're reaching out for you, whether they reach out for me directly, no matter who they're talking to on staff, is that they can get the real information and not some nonsense that they picked up on social media. That's why we call it Too Honest for Social Media. And the news isn't always great, or news isn't what people always want to hear, but at least they get the factual information and they can get some backstories.
Yes.
So you and I were discussing in a previous podcast, we kind of talked about, well, why is this particular vacant business still sitting there vacant? And you can touch on that again. So you don't have to mention specific businesses, but why do we see that sometimes where a business just sits vacant for a long period of time?
Well, part of the reason is if it's purchased by somebody that didn't come to the village first, I can't underscore what a huge mistake that is, because they may not be able to use it. There's certain codes that they have to comply with so everyone's treated fairly. And it breaks my heart when they'll say, well, this is what I want to do, and they've already bought the building, and it's like, well, I'm sorry, I don't think that's going to work. It's not. An empty building is also, because it's an eyesore, people will call about that. But I just try to stay on top of why, what's going on with a building. So if somebody calls, I have the answer. For example, Kmart, it was bought by somebody and he is now trying to lease it out. I wish him the best of luck. But the best benefit for the village is I have a good relationship with the broker for the building. And I can call him and say, hey, what's going on? If you need anything, let me know. Please have them call me before they decide they're going to sign a lease, and take it from there.
Right, but you bring up a good point, and take the Kmart, for example. That's an older building, so there are issues that exist in there like asbestos or other. So it's not so simple as, I just want to buy this building and I'll lease it out.
Exactly.
There's work that has to be done, and if they have to go through our building permit process, there could be mitigation for things like asbestos, which become awfully expensive. But we're responsible for making sure that the community's safe and that anyone that would go in there is safe. So you get calls from people regularly, I'm sure, that are saying they're looking for space. And what do you do then?
Well, we have all of our available sites that I know of, and I do get notifications of sites that are available. So I'll say, do you want to lease? Do you want to own? Do you have a place you want to be? Do you want to build from the ground up? Do you want an existing space? I mean, for example, we don't have a lot of leasable retail space on Route 30. In fact, I have a waiting list of restaurants, and there were 2 of them that we thought we might have a space for, but that didn't work out, that want me to call them if something becomes available. I think that's a great problem to have. I wish we didn't, but we do.
Right. So they're calling you saying, hey, but they're saying specifically, I want to lease, I don't want to build, and I want to be on Route 30.
Right.
And sometimes they even say, I want to be east of Cedar, I want to be west of Cedar.
They do.
So they get very specific about that.
They do, very much so. And there's only so much I can do to help them other than to tell them to keep watching our available sites, or their broker can contact me.
Right. Now, I know you stay in touch with those people, but you also reach out for others. For example, why don't we have a Trader Joe's? Why don't we have X, Y, and Z? Is that because you've never called Trader Joe's?
No, I have reached out to Trader Joe's a handful of times since I started. I think what a lot of people don't understand, and frankly I didn't until I had this job, is that every company has a formula, if you will, as to what works in a certain area. The demographics, the age, the college graduates. I mean, all that, and it can be totally different. They also want to be away from each other. For example, a restaurant may not want to be in close proximity to another restaurant that serves similar food, but auto parts stores want to be right on top of each other because they figure if you need to fix your car bad enough, you need to go to different places in close proximity to get that part.
All right, that's interesting. So you're right. So sometimes we know that restaurants will say they do like to be close to each other because if that one's full, then you're going to come to me.
Yes.
But if they're that similar, but you do have like your Burger King and your McDonald's are next to each other, but
Yes.
they have different clientele.
Absolutely.
I mean, some people are Burger King people, some people are McDonald's people, but I get that. What we don't have is mattress stores. We have one.
We did.
We did. That's exactly right. We have one, as I recall. I don't
Yes.
think that we have another one
don't.
now. But you understand. So talk about why would that be when we did have 3 or 4 or 5 mattress stores in? What's that kind of philosophy?
It's a trend. I mean, for some reason, they just decided they needed to have a bunch of them at one time. I mean, it's kind of like coffee shops. We have a lot of those coming up right now. And, it may be because Starbucks has a new CEO and is cutting back on some of their buildings. But like Seven Brew opened up in Mokina. We've got a couple of them that are looking in New Lenox. And I just got a call from one today looking for a space. for a coffee shop and type of a cafeteria. So whatever the trend is for what the reasons vary. I mean,
Sure.
there's not a hard and fast answer, but coffee shops seem to be the new thing right now, just like mattress firms were several years ago.
Sure. And mattress stores, I mean, you sell 1 or 2 mattresses and you're making your nut for the day. So it's really not, they don't really care because their
Right.
overhead is minimal.
Correct.
They don't have. So what do they care if they plop up a space? And why would we allow that? And we've talked about that on
Yes.
other podcasts before.
Well, if their zoning and their parking is fine, then there's no reason for us to turn them away. It's very difficult, and they could sue us, and I don't know if that's a good use of taxpayer money.
Yeah,
I mean, I felt that as a trustee. It's
Sure.
like, it's not worth it.
No, we can't. We cannot stop that from happening if they're zoned properly and they don't need any variances, like you said, to parking or anything else.
Correct.
So yeah, it gets frustrating, I know, and it's just like people say, why are there new businesses building if there's some vacancies? And that's because we can't force business owners to sell,
Right.
and we can't make somebody go to a certain location.
Well, and a certain trend that's going on right now is that construction costs are really high. So I actually had somebody from a sports, it was a pickleball court. I was trying to get him to come up north by the sports complex, and he's like, no, I'd rather have an industrial building that's already built. I'm like, okay, I'll keep you in mind and keep your number.
Right.
So it just depends on what he just said the costs are too high, and we've heard that recently.
Right. Yeah, there's no doubt that does happen, that those construction costs, they go up sometimes, like during COVID, they shot up, and they never really seem to come down. They stabilize,
Right.
but they don't really ever seem to come down. And it is, unless you're a major franchise, it can be really difficult for a mom and pop
Oh, yeah.
to get the construction loan. They're putting it all in.
They are.
To hope that they're successful.
Well, I'm glad you brought up franchises, because a lot of people will say, why don't you have a certain restaurant in town? If they're franchisee driven, I'll reach out to the company and they'll say, well, if you find me a franchisee, then we'll think about it. I don't have that. I don't have those resources of people that are saying they'll come to me if they're the franchisee, but to find one for a
Right.
franchise-driven company or corporation doesn't work. And a lot of colleagues in other communities have the same issue.
Yeah, of course. Those people would be calling those companies if they wanted to be a franchisee. And then, like you said, if they're given permission, then they'll contact you and say, hey, I want to open.
Yes.
But we also know with some of those franchises, there are, as the crow flies, how close they can be to each other.
Right.
And we know that there are
Definitely.
certain owners of franchisees who control an area, so it's not like another franchisee can come into their space.
Yes.
So there's a lot that you have to try and juggle to
Yes.
figure out who can come and who can't come.
Well, and I'll give you a great example that was recent. We had a restaurant that I recruited for up by the hospital, which is still interesting in building. He also has another different type of franchise in New Lenox. So he knows the community and he believes in us.
Sure.
And that makes it a lot easier. But that type of example is far and few between.
Absolutely. All right, so businesses big and small. We do have a lot of mom and pop stores.
We do.
We do have some of the big franchises and some of the corporate stores and whatnot. How many businesses roughly do we have here in New Lenox?
About 600.
About 600 businesses.
Yes. All types, industrial, commercial, mom and pop, whatever.
So your job, of course, a big part of your job, because we are a growing community, whether it's the sports complex, whether it's Laraway Road, whether it's some of the fill-in on 30, which is few and far between, is to go out and try and bring businesses to our area. But with the 600 businesses that are here, we don't just forget about them once we get here. So
no.
tell me about what you do with them.
So we do a few things. First, we have 3 promotions that are primarily geared towards restaurants and retailers, and it's to get people out and to shop local. Bring on Spring, Restaurant Week, and Shift Your Shopping is the end of the year. Restaurant Week just concludes today. Last year, I sent a survey out to all the participating restaurants, and there were 26 of them. They had 1,000 customers collectively from that one promotion from last year's Restaurant Week. And we try to gauge how well they work, but it doesn't cost them anything. The
Sure.
village and the chamber share the cost on it. Another thing we do is we have retention interviews with certain businesses. Now, I say certain because the larger companies that may have more need in New Lenox are the ones that we target, but it's something that economic developers do. You go out and you reach out to a company and find out their satisfaction in the community. Most of them are resistant to doing that because they're skeptical. But once we get in there, and I say we because sometimes I partner with the Will County Center for Economic Development. We co-do the interview. They're so appreciative. And they have our contact information. And we've offered them things that they didn't know were available.
So you also help with networking too. I know the chamber does some of that, but not every business is in the chamber.
Correct.
And for the village, it, as much as we support the chamber, we also support businesses that are not in the chamber.
Correct.
So they're all on a mass emailing list sometimes. You reach out for them. How do you try and help them in that?
Well, for example, I recently sent out to all of our businesses the Restaurant Week brochure to get their employees to eat local during the week, as well as tell them about two employee hiring opportunities. One that Lincoln Way District 210 is having a job fair in October, and the other one is that the Will County Center for Economic Development is having a summer intern program where they need employers to come in who are willing to hire high school students who are paid and in a class where there's accountability. So I just wanted them to know it's out there and gave them the contact information. So it's just a big old roster that I use to send it out.
So that's important. So it is being very supportive of our existing businesses, not just trying to attract new. But of course, we do that. You touched on it a little bit when you talked about Trader Joe's. But the reality is, you monitor social media. And you see people saying, I wish we had this, I wish we had that. How often does something like that come up where you haven't reached out for?
Not very often.
Not very often at all.
No, it's the Chick-fil-A's, it's the Trader Joe's.
It's the Buc-ee's. It's all of them.
Exactly.
Yes.
And all I can do is try. I mean, but Trader Joe's is one of those companies. It's their formula where they want a certain percentage of college graduates, and New Lenox doesn't have that. So that's what they tell us. Chick-fil-A, on the other hand, will say, you're too close to Orland or you don't have the right population, but yet they just put one up in Frankfort. So I can't change that. All I can do is continue to pursue. And when I do pursue, I think this is important. I'm always trying to pursue something we don't have. So for people out there that say, why do we have so many chicken places? They're coming here on their own.
Yeah.
I mean, Raising Cane's was a perfect example, and that's so popular.
Sure. Very, very. Yes, there are times where we will recruit something, but you're right. It's not like, everyone says, why do we have so many chicken places? Well, we had one forever. And then we got two more, and everyone said, oh my God, all we get is chicken places. We had one Mexican restaurant, and we got two more. Oh my God, all we have is Mexican restaurants. But you're right. First of all, this is America. And if someone wants to open a restaurant, they can open a restaurant.
And what a tough job. Oh my, what a lifestyle. Oh my gosh.
Yes. I mean, you are committed 7 days a week. And when you have a shrinking workforce, or at least sometimes people who put the effort into wanting to work, they call in sick. You don't get to say, oh, well, they called in sick.
Right.
You better put on the apron and get going because you're responsible. So it's really, really tough. People also say, we need a white tablecloth restaurant. And of course, my response is, okay, well, you go in there once a year on your anniversary isn't going to keep the lights on.
Right.
So, you're right. These businesses know what they're doing. They've been around a long time. Number one, as you know, they'll look at New Lenox, they'll look at a certain location, and they'll put a pin there, and then they'll draw the circle around it. And that pin will be in the center. And they will look at that circle and say, what's the population?
Right.
What's the demographics? What is the income level? And when you look at New Lenox, we're doing surprisingly well, kind of being on the far west end of things here. If you're in Frankfort, you're surrounded by Orland and Tinley and Mokina and New Lenox.
Right.
If you're New Lenox, we have our neighbors to the south in Manhattan, who are a great town, but they're still growing. They still have a small population. You go to the north, you have a lot of empty space, and then you'll get into a little bit of Lockport and Homer. And then you go to the west in through the east side of Joliet. And so you can see why businesses are sometimes thinking, well, if I can get closer toward the bigger population hubs, they'll come.
Right, they do that.
Despite that, we're, I think, doing phenomenally well.
I think we are.
And you would say you have waiting lists of people trying to find land here.
I do.
So we just saw that that in New Lenox, our housing prices have risen more percentage-wise than anyone around. Nobody even close to us in any of these towns around us. That's because people want to live here.
Yes.
And people want the amenities. And so it's difficult. You've been here since 1976? All right,
Yes.
so let me ask you, because sometimes you hear people who've been here from 1976 saying, I wish it was still like it was in 1976.
No, I had to drive out of New Lenox to do almost everything, and that just bothered me, especially in the dead of winter. Who wants to drive to another community? And honestly, I felt our tax dollars should be here. I mean, that's been part of my goal even as a trustee, was to just try to keep things local as much as possible. And if they choose to go elsewhere, if residents, that's their right. I can't change that. But if it's here, for example, we haven't had a bookstore in New Lenox for as long as I can remember. We now have one at Grounded Coffee. I put it on Facebook, and it's like here, and people are like, wow, I didn't know that was there. So it's just a matter of getting the word out that there is something different here for them to go to. Not everybody wants a bookstore, but I like the progressive yet smart growth that the village has seen since I moved here.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I mean, I am of the same philosophy that we want you to be able to get whatever you need right here in our borders. Sometimes, you'll choose to go elsewhere, but we have a hospital. We have shopping. We have restaurants. We have, so, I think we've got a really good mix with a lot more to come.
Yes, I would totally agree with that.
Now, the complaint often also is we don't want to become the next Orland. We don't. But I think we're laid out in a certain way, for example, by a sports complex where we've got hotel deals working and restaurant deals. That does not interfere with the day-to-day travel of our residents. It's out of the way.
Right.
So when businesses come to you, do you look at those locations, say, where's a good fit not only for them, but for our community?
Right, exactly. I do. And I'll tell them, there was somebody that asked me about being a gas station up by the hospital, and I said, you realize that there's one planned up there and there's a couple that are close proximity. He's like, oh man, I'm glad you told me that. I had no idea. So yeah, they need that kind of insight, especially if they're outside the community.
Absolutely. And we did put a moratorium on gas stations for the 30 corridor, for the Laraway corridor. Of course, up there where we're putting the sports, where we have the sports complex and the hospital, I mean, there's going to be a need for a little bit more.
Right.
Because there's one currently and
Yes.
another one planned. But you're right. So we do try to plan that out strategically.
Yes.
For what makes sense for us.
Well, and I think a lot of people also wonder, why hasn't there been anything by the hospital until the sports complex came up? Nobody wanted to be first. And that's the simple answer to that question, because they feel like they need something else there. Now, obviously, the sports complex is an economic driver on for a lot of reasons, but that's why it's taken until now to get that development up there.
Right. And the only people that wanted to go up there were warehousing.
Yes. Oh, my goodness.
Yes, that's all they wanted.
That's all they
There's
wanted.
another thing that is lacking up there, but that we're addressing, and that's rooftops.
Oh, we have so much interest right now in residential development.
That's right. So you've got Pulte building over 500 units up there.
Yes.
And we have at least 3 other tracts of land on the north side of town where decent-sized residential development is coming.
Right.
So, you have talked to grocery stores, for example.
I have.
We have plenty of grocery stores out here, but up north, nothing.
Right.
And what have they told you prior to the sports complex in particular, but what have they told you about
You need
why
more
they-
rooftops.
You need rooftops.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's the answer to it. And another thing to point out is that while you mentioned the sports complex in Route 30, Laraway is kind of like a hidden gem, because once those road improvements are changed, I mean, we've had people that have come in and wanted to build there, but they're afraid they're going to lose their frontage.
Sure.
And they don't want to move forward until then. So, I mean, to your point, Orland has LaGrange, but we've got really 3 avenues of development opportunities. Obviously, 30 is limited, but they're there.
Well, you make a great point. Is LaGrange is really it. I mean, that's where everything is. But for us, you have residential. You can have some commercial on Laraway. You can have that commercial on 30. and then you can have residential and commercial up on the north side of town as well.
Correct.
So it's good. All right. Everybody wants to know Menards.
Oh,
So the the Walmart site really opened when I was first elected mayor. It was approved in the 2 years I was off on the school board, but it opened in 2007.
mm-hmm.
Menards owned that property prior to 2007, so they've had it for over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Give us a Menards update.
So in this job for 10 years, every single August, I send Menards demographics to show how the community is growing. I also have an email blast that I send out about once a quarter that includes about 200 developers, brokers, and site selectors, but Menards is on there as well. And I will tell them about all the growth so they know it's coming. And every year I follow up with Menards, and they're just not ready yet. Sometimes they'll say we haven't built any stores. Sometimes we're concentrating on remodeling existing stores, but they get a contact from the village every year, and I do get a response from them. Now they still own the property. They don't seem. I asked him one time if they were. To Menard's credit, the same person I dealt with 10 years ago is still there. Thank goodness. So he'll say, no, we don't really want to sell.
But they did sell a lot of their other parcels off.
Yes, they did.
And they held on to New Lenox for a reason. I mean, clearly they have a few $1 million invested in that property with improvements and land.
They did. Well, the improvements to Route 30.
That's right. That's right. We had them put improvements into that. And so they are financially invested in, but at this point in time, they could flip that piece clearly, very, very easily, but they haven't because they still have an interest here in New Lenox.
Yes.
Whereas they sold off many of their other parcels.
And it's far enough away from Homer Glen and Joliet's store where it's not really a threat.
Right.
I mean, in my opinion, it isn't.
Right. But again, like you said, they all have their own formulas.
They do.
And what they do. But so for people who, in our Lowe's is doing very well, but they're just like we talked about McDonald's people and Burger King people, there are Lowe's people and there are Menards people and there are Home Depot people.
Yes.
And so they have their customer base. But the positive for our people that are Menards people is that Menards could have sold that property a long time ago and gotten their money back and then some, but they still are interested in New Lenox and they're holding on to that piece. And we cannot force them to build. We cannot force them to sell. None of those things.
No, and the only pointed comment I had to them was in 2021 when the housing improvement permits were just skyrocketing. I mean, everybody was improving things in 20 and 21. And I said, you missed the boat. Lowe's got it all because you weren't here.
That's right.
I couldn't help myself.
So in other words, you're real direct with them.
Yeah. Well, I know that surprises you.
No, and I love it. That's how we operate here. All right, we've got an event coming up here on September 17th.
We do.
And so if this podcast ends up airing, Don, I don't know if we can put this out there next Tuesday. What is that? What is the date on
this?
That?
It's on Wednesday. It's
a
week
there
from
you
tomorrow.
Go. Don, you going to be able to have this thing ready for Tuesday of next? Don says yes. So you'll have 24 hours, but because it comes out at 7 o'clock in the morning. But on the 17th, we do our annual State of the Village, and the community is welcome to attend that. And they need to RSVP because it's limited space at the hospital.
And they're serving lunch.
Well, there you go. Talk a little bit about, and we do, Don films the State of the Village and puts it out there for people to see. But it's really a good opportunity for us to do what?
To really showcase the community. I mean, there's just so many. The PowerPoint slides are 45. There's a lot to talk about. I mean, whether it's population or it's where the growth is coming. I try to mix it up every year just to give them so they don't think that I'm just replacing numbers.
Right.
But it's really what housing has come through with the value of construction, the residential development that is going on right now, the number of new businesses, and because you open it up to the community, we have 5 different taxing bodies that are also presenting to talk about it because that's very collective. I mean, it's just very coordinated and collective. And I will say to just as a sidebar, some of the people invited here are brokers and developers. And the best thing they can see is when there is a united community of people that will talk to each other and work together. We actually had a housing development, they want a commercial development that came in to see us a few weeks ago. And one of the gentlemen used to be the economic developer for Louisville, Kentucky. And I said to him, you know, one thing that our village does really well is collaborate with our other taxing bodies. And he goes, oh, that's such a relief. He goes, because I have tried to be a site selector in communities where one doesn't like the other one, or they never talk to each other. And he goes, it just doesn't work as well. So I felt that was a positive takeaway for him, to know that we have that relationship with our taxing bodies.
And it's something that is unique, because we work very closely with our schools and park district and fire and township and library and everybody. But I hear about it from, those other officials when they're out at their conferences. If they're at a park district conference, other directors will say to our director, oh, we hate our village, or we don't get along with our schools, or we don't whatever. Mm-hmm. It's really unique for a community to have everybody pulling in the same direction mm-hmm. and working together. And I think that is right, Nancy. That is a big part of our success, mm-hmm. is that we're all on the same page.
Right.
We are here to provide opportunities for businesses to come and homes to come. Well, that helps schools. Mm-hmm. That helps the library.
Right.
Helps the park district. And in return, when we need something from them, mm-hmm. they're always willing to step up mm-hmm. and help out. So you've got good relationships with different department people from those taxing bodies as well.
And I feel comfortable reaching out to them and asking them different things. But one thing, too, where we coordinate efforts, and I'm kind of going back to our conversation about what a business should do or a broker should do when they call. Rather than go out and buy or lease something without talking to us, the village has a process, and I love this. It's called Development Review Committee. You give us a site plan. We have representatives from different departments and the fire department that come in. The park district and and other entities are involved as well. It's free, and you get feedback, so you know what you need to do. And they meet twice a month. But why wouldn't you take advantage of that opportunity? And before you buy or lease something.
That's right. We don't want people spending time and money if it's not going anywhere, or if it's not going to be what they want it to be.
Right.
No, that's a great point. One last thing, let's just touch on, you've been involved with the Lincoln Way Women's Business mm-hmm. Organization.
Yes.
Just talk a little bit about that. I think that's a great organization.
Oh, gosh, it's been in effect since the 70s. I mean, like the Marilyn Kurtzes and the Judy Niemans of New Lenox started it. And every year their numbers have increased as far as giving away scholarships to Lincoln Way area seniors. And in the last 5 or 10 years, they added women returning for their education. But the dollar amount would be based on how much money we earn from the annual Christmas auction, which is always every December. That is the main fundraiser. I am proud to say that within the last 2 years we became a 501c3, so we are able to broaden our fundraising through sponsorships. But I think this last year we gave away scholarships of about $40,000 that were about $1,500 a piece or so.
Wow.
And the schools have a scholarship night, so they don't know they're getting it that night, but there's a whole vetting process of these different women that are coming through. Let me tell you, these girls are extremely impressive. I never walk away from the scholarship dinner feeling like there isn't hope for our community and our country, because these young women want to be bioengineers or in healthcare. I mean, things that I never really thought of doing when I was thinking of what my career was going to be, but they're really impressive. The schools are doing a great job educating these women and the students in general.
That's great. So you're touching 25 to 30 lives, giving them some financial support to go out and pursue their education and their dreams.
And we meet once a month at Gatto's. I mean, I've served on different not-for-profit organizations. It's the least labor intensive and commitment intensive, because it's just once a month, other than the Christmas auction, and that's it.
And what I absolutely love about it, and you touched on this, is you have some of these amazing women like Marilyn Kurtz and Judy Neiman and others that started this, that are still involved today. But because they're so inspirational, you have new people coming in, new strong women leaders coming into the organization to make sure it's going to flourish for years to come.
We do, and I think for years we had like 30, 35. Now it's like 65, 70 members. So has really blossomed.
Typically those things kind of fall away and then disintegrate. But for that to grow and be that successful and do that much good for our kids here in town, that's amazing.
I don't think a lot of people know about it, so I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, congratulations to you and everyone involved in that.
Thank you. I'll pass
and
it along.
Thank you again for what you do. You really are a wonderful person, and I mean that. Most importantly, for me as the mayor, I like to make sure that we have people at every level, but certainly in positions like yours, influential positions like yours, that are hardworking, that are ethical, that are good people, that people can trust. I hear about it all the time from mayors, from developers who will come to me and say, Mayor, because of the way we're treated here, that's why we want to do business here. And I think it's people like you and so many others here why New Lenox is really growing responsibly, but really flourishing the way that it is. So thank you. On behalf of the board and our residents, I want to say thank you for your many, many years, decades of commitment to this community.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. And we have a great staff here. I know you say that all the time, but we really do. And we really want people may not agree that we have their best interest at heart when we don't tell them what they want to hear.
Right.
But that's our job. You know, we have to help them follow the rules.
We have to be honest. We have to try and find solutions for them. But at the end of the day, there are rules that have to be followed.
Correct.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me today.
You're welcome.
And I appreciate each and every one of you for listening or watching to this edition of Too Honest for Social Media.